Yeah, so here we go again. It's Friday. The time is 1 past 8 in the PM. Uh, the temperature is 264 approximately Kelvin. That is. Um, I bought some frozen stuff, but the delta in temperature, assuming 7 degrees negative centigrade in the freezer, is only 30 degrees. So I'm not too fussed about it. It's gonna stay good for long enough. Yeah, I've been shopping. Got my receipt here. I spent €43.22. Then again, I got a solid chunk, 12 something, back in deposit. So it would have been approximately $55 my shopping trip. Surprising amount is once again milk. I got a couple of dinners in a bottle, just because. Also got a few of today's drink of choice, which is Fritz Cola Zero. I jokingly, well, not jokingly, I continue to explain that we do not have zero at Film Club when I do the bar there, and people ask for zero because they want the one without sugar, which is a white label, white and black label, not black and white. Black and white is the regular. White and black is the zero, is the ohne Zucker, without sugar, and the black and red is the zero, which is not available at Film Club. So I rather indifferent to the difference between them, beside the sugar, which is obviously not so great for the teeth. But I tend to buy the zero just for illustrative purposes in case it come up in conversation. So, that's today's drink of choice. I have a main topic for today, which is I've decided to responsibly, in my eyes, self-medicate. For yesterday was the first day I ever did microdosing of hallucinogens. I reckon I'll keep it a 3 days a week kind of deal to not build too much immunity. Just because, why not? I had in the past considered. I'm fairly confident in the early sessions as well. But the procurement had been a problem, and I've now solved that. So, yay! Yesterday I did about a 20th dose of what people would usually do for regular consumption. I reckon either tomorrow or the day after I'll probably end up doing a 10%, and I'll stick to that then. Just because, might as well try it. I am actually documenting the process for the sake of it. I don't believe I'll ever look at the documentation again, but it's just another way of causing myself to reflect. Because, well, it's another way of causing myself to reflect that is not as much a time commitment as this here. For if I sit down to talk to myself, hello there, thank you very much for watching, by the way, it end up being half an hour, 3/4 an hour, and I don't got that multiple times in the day while I'm microdosing, One other side thing, just a short mention, worth a mention, is my properly bodged shades have once again broken. I reckon I'll bodge them semi-proper again for a change, just because now they've held for the longest time using some tape. And with the weather we've had as of late, I do like using them. Sky is somewhat cloudy. Today weren't too hot, but it's still bloody warm to the point where I sweat, so with the microdose and hallucinogens, for now it's going to be just trialing it, I guess. Why not, got nothing to lose. Obviously, I would not operate motor vehicles if I did not feel safe to, and after having consumed, I wait a fair while to make sure I am safe. So, being a reasonable, responsible adult, I guess. Then again, self-medicating, so who knows. Yeah, I'm not aiming to take enough to ever go on a trip. Just because, I'd like to be in my right mind. And the end of the day, the hallucinogen I have chosen is one the body produces itself, of regular humans, presumably mine too. I haven't gotten myself tested, but it is likely I am producing it, which is why they can have an effect even when microdosing, That's also why I do not mind them. The source I use for procurement is one with enough reputation. I don't worry about the quality or the dosage. They have no reason to lie about the dosage or quality. Yeah, I guess they have quite some reputation, so they have quite some to lose, you know. It's just a funny thing because the party I have never met, I will never meet, and they have more trust than the average person on the road from me up ahead of time. I mean, as diluted as I am taking the stuff, I don't believe anything would do harm. Then again, it's crazy what kind of things people do put in substances. I'm not worried about it because the source is reputable enough, and I also wouldn't want to spend the money to get it tested, to be fair. Then again, at some festivals, music festivals in particular, I believe there is free testing. So, you know, if I make this a thing one day, I might just go someplace where they test your substances for free, just to verify my suspicions of it being good stuff. Me not understanding the rules of social norms with, for example, procurement of odd substances, did give me quite some anxiety for procurement, but I managed quite well in the end of the day. There was a few comments I would usually make that I did not. I don't think I want to go into detail, but usually I would make those comments toward anyone, and I did not make them toward them, so I guess that's just me trying to bend over to the rules of society that I understand to the degree I do. If normal people don't do it, I shan't in these interactions until I feel very comfortable, so, you know, it's just the way it is. Progress with my thesis film have been going solid. Probably is mostly psychosomatic because my dosage went much even for microdosing yesterday. But I did manage to get quite a lot of progress done yesterday, to the point where I now have my source footage and I just need to refine it. Well, I've refined the source footage, I just need to apply it, and I'll have my video. I was wondering about soundscaping. I had even considered using some of my dad's music, to which my sister and me hold the copyright, and the other copyright holders have given us the blessing to use and publish, so yeah. But then I thought, nah, I don't really want to drag the music down and cut it also, because I'm only aiming for half a minute to 2 minutes of runtime for my thesis film, you know. Shortest song would be 3 minutes 30, which would be Truckin'. I've been trucking miles and miles. Which was originally written as satire for, I believe, a country festival. So, you know, music festival. I like it a lot, but I also would rather do it justice, and I have some ideas for music visualization, which I can do in the free time after. Once I have a job, or in the time period in between getting my thesis wrapped and the film wrapped and the presentation to presenting it, because I'll be presenting it at the end of August, but I have to have everything handed in by the 12th, which means there's no point in doing anything after the 12th. So I'll have some free time on my hands, assuming job procurement work out, which I will know by the 12th. Because if I haven't gotten an offer by then, I won't be getting one in August, which means I'll have to actually apply for places, which I don't want to do, but if I have to, I will, you know. I mean, nah. The place I am hoping to get an offer from have an inherent advantage for both me and them, with me joining up because it's my former place of internship, so I'm already onboarded for all practical purposes. For the chief of the place occasionally reach out to this day just to ask the odd question, which is something I'm somewhat proud of as just a former intern, but you know, it's quite nice anyway. I just realised I didn't actually finish the de-chalking procedure when I was there earlier of the coffee machine, just because I dropped by, you know, get a coffee, have a yawn, have a couple of cigarettes with some of the people, socialising. But I had to leave the house because I had to go grocery shopping. After I was at my former place of internship, I did go by the tea joint. Had a tea I haven't had in quite a while, Mecha, which is the fine stuff of Gyokuro. When it's sifted, it's just all the fine stuff, that's Mecha. And the rough stuff, the whole leaves and major fractions of leaves, are Gyokuro. Mecha is significantly cheaper, but for tea house consumption, really the price delta is next to none. But I just fancied having it, so that's what I done. And I did have a piece of cocoa cake, because, gotta treat yourself. In the end of the day, tea and cake today only set me back €9, and parking set me back €3, so surprising, but I guess that's how it works. Don't smoke, smoking kills. I say as I light a cigarette. Isn't it beautiful? With my thesis on... Now, skip that topic for the moment. We'll go back to the previous main topic, which is the microdosing self-medication. I'm continuing to use a notebook I used for my thesis to practice my penmanship with documenting that, I guess. Documenting it, that is. Not using it. I did manage to get into solid work flow state yesterday. Then again, it's most certainly psychosomatic, just because the dosage was significantly lower than most people would suggest for microdosing. Then again, it might just be the right microdose for me. I might totally go ball deep tripping when I next try double the microdosage. Good news is I'll do it when I have no responsibilities toward other people. Another thing I managed to do today, besides shopping, is I managed to go to a place I've never been to before. Also a mall/shopping centre, which happened to have an Aldi, so I managed to get myself some SIM card credit top-ups, because I do use a prepaid SIM card, though I've had it for more than a decade at this point. Shit. Wow. Having a number for more than a decade. Wow. Also found out that place have a biometric passport photo ID machine at a not so much used entrance, so likely once I have gone to and gotten a haircut and perhaps shave myself, I reckon I'll go there to get some passport pics, because I do have the aim of, by the end of the calendar year, having applied for at least one of my 2 passports I am entitled to, and having prepared for both. There would be German and British passports. The British will be more of a pain, just because it will be my first British passport. But I reckon I'll manage. Hopefully the embassy offer advisory appointments, or I could just book an appointment. They'll tell you what you need. Book another appointment, bring all you need. Just because I'm not really good with bureaucracy and all. I'd much rather talk to a human. Surprise. I say, much rather talk to a human, whereas I talk to myself on a phone, which is certainly not a human. Same as this is not a pipe. I mean, I am pointing at myself. I am pointing at something that is accused of human. But what you're seeing is not me pointing at myself. It's an image of me pointing at myself. I have a neighbour who happened to have recently acquired a new motor vehicle. They would like to improve some things themselves, and I find myself in a position of authority in relation to them quite commonly, and being able to give them advice. Today they were, for example, trying to tint their rear windows using some foils, and I had all the advice, because not only did I tint this car 8 years ago, I also tinted my dad's previous car, so, only rear because you aren't allowed in the front, but still, it's certainly dark back there. For tomorrow, I am invited to a birthday in one of the bigger parks of the city, which is the former airfield. I'll most certainly end up showing up late just because there's demonstrations and I got plans on working on my thesis film for morning and early afternoon. And the host asked whether they can stash some stuff in the car, and I said I don't mind, but I might not join you later, and we might have to arrange another day. So I'll be loading a few empty boxes before I go there, just so the stuff can be secured that they load. Because I don't want shit falling all over the back and spilling drinks, alcoholic or not. I like a clean car. Then again, I haven't wrapped up my tie downs in 3 weeks. So I have a load of loose tie downs all over the back. That's something I might get to tomorrow, I guess. Though today I actually secured my shopping more than I usually would, because I did take my empties in for deposits. I had what? Don't say. 1050. I had 42 empty cans, and I believe it was 14 bottles, glass bottles. So I had a whole Euronorm basket box full, which is now underneath my shopping. So the shopping would have been top heavy, which is why I felt the need to extra secure it, just with a tie down over top, because I can't move side to side anyways. I have permanent load. I carry with me things like my currently open pack of microfiber rags, and that secures it sideways. The other side is the door securing it. Just front to back I got to secure it. Well, really back, because in the front there is a bulkhead. Surprise. So just back. But I do have to tie down things very well toward the back, because I do accelerate. I've recently found out it's not just paragraph 1 number 2 of the German rules of the road, it's also paragraph 3 number 2, which explicitly says that you should not be driving below the speed limit unless you have an explicit reason to. Then again, the explicit reasons are rather ambiguous. I mean, along this road I could say, oh, I don't know if there's foxes. I've seen foxes here a few times, which is theoretically true. So I could be doing 2/5 the speed limit here, and I'd have a reason for it. But 1/5 I would not. 1/5 would be 10 kph, which is a speed limit I really don't like, and I have considered questioning the city government, whichever department does that, because there is every now and then roadworks for which they do 10 kph speed limits. I try my best to stick to them, but 10 is so slow I can't do it in good faith. I actually done 15 yesterday, and 15 is 50% over the speed limit. And people behind me were honking. I don't think they were honking because I was speeding like a maniac, though I was in my eyes. I think they were honking because they can't read speed limits, or they don't know what their car is doing in speed. Or they might just not care, but let's not assume that, because that's the worst option. In my eyes, the place where that speed limit is would be perfectly adequate with a 30 kph speed limit. It's roadworks, obviously. It's down to 1 lane from 2. But 30 would still be an adequate speed limit for those roadworks. Not immediately next to footpath, there's a green stripe in between, and 30 is bloody slow already anyways. I mean, you know. Then again, this one is at least not as bad, because it's only a couple of 100 meters speed limit of 10 before the roadworks are over, and it's automatically lifted because it's in the combination with a caution roadworks sign in the beginning. And roadworks we do not have end of for in Germany. You just have to judge it yourself. So one could argue, I thought this pillar was the roadworks and the roadworks behind were separate. But I still like being honest with myself, so I don't bend the rules that far. You know. But 10 is really horrendous, and the last time I'd obeyed a 10 speed limit was fucking ridiculous, because that was roadworks that went on for half a kilometre. And surprise, 500 metres moving at 10 kph is hella long time, and I had hella queue of traffic after me after that. Just because, surprise, 10 at that point is what, 17% the speed limit, Without roadworks, that would be 60 kph. And even 30 is doable, but you'll start queuing traffic behind you. If you're doing 10, you're basically an obstacle. Then again, if the speed limit is 10, it's not my fault I am an obstacle. Complain to whoever ordered the speed limit of 10 kph, because, I mean, it's just a bad joke, you know. Yeah, okay, if the road is only as wide as a narrow car or so, or as this car even, and there is doors exiting buildings immediately onto the road, I can understand why you do 10 or even 5 kph speed limits. But if there's not even any pedestrian paths immediately next to the road, why? And I fit comfortably. Hell, a lorry would fit comfortably, and they can be, I believe, 3 meters and are commonly 250. I have one in front of me, that's certainly more than 250 in width, let's say it that way. I believe up to 3 you do not need special permits. I'm not 100% on it though. And I can tell you lorries fit through that roadwork, so for regular cars, it's not even a joke. You can have a person stood on either side of the car and still drive through, you know. I mean, yeah, okay, if you don't know the person, you perhaps shouldn't, but there is no people supposed to be there. Which brings me to another tangent. Surprise. In the very recent past, I have had several instances of roads where certainly there is no foot traffic that is supposed to be there, because there is footpaths next to the road, with people just walking on the road as if they were total lunatics, with traffic on the road, because I was on the road. I was in this here. This is traffic if it's moving on the road. It's even traffic if it's just stood on the road as it is currently, but currently it is resting traffic. And it was not resting traffic at those points in time. And you'd think the people that make an effort and perhaps step on the footpath, but I guess they just don't care for their livelihood, for their life, not livelihood, perhaps both. I mean, yeah, okay, if you were likely to die, I'd perhaps understand it as acts of unalivement. But with those speed limits, you aren't going to die. At best, you got a couple of scuffs or scratches, and at worst, you're paraplegic after, you know, and that's not a very good spectrum of range. I mean, not a scratch is a good point, and for a person who's looking to unalive themselves, perhaps dead would be a good point. But the in-between is fucking horrendous for anyone. I mean, come on. And even I would go so far as to say it's societally accepted that dead is not a good point either. So not a scratch is fine, which is what you're allowed to do in reduced traffic areas. So Verkehrsberuhigter Bereich in German, which means everyone has equal right of way. And the speed limit is walking pace, which is commonly interpreted as between 7 and 21 kph. I tend to, these days, go more on the side of 7 kph, just because I'm not in a hurry, man. Nah. You're also only allowed to park in marked areas, but you are allowed to park in any direction. So even on the left side of the road, because there is legally no road, it's all shared space. And those spaces, I generally don't mind the speed limits, because the requirements necessary to fulfill application for such space makes the speed limits justified, you know. But in my uneducated opinion, a 10 kph speed limit for roadworks of more than 20 meters is unreasonable. Particularly because I make an effort to obey the speed limits, and even if I speed like a maniac, doing 150% the speed limit, I still end up with a traffic jam behind me. And that's just not responsible operation of vehicles. I mean, yeah, okay. First off, I'm speeding like a maniac in the first place anyways. 150% the speed limit, 15 kph. And second off, I'm still an obstacle to traffic. Which means, were I not there, traffic would be flowing at more than 200% the speed limit. I mean, are you crazy? Then again, I've recently found out that, before the recently found out, let's establish some facts. In Germany, at latest every 2 years, the local governments are responsible for checking over all the road signage and conditions of roads and signage and so on. And I've recently found out for this city-state, the capital of Germany, that is Berlin, it's all done by a company. I have actually considered reaching out to them for just, a walk along, because every 2 years, yeah, okay. But with their list of employees, I reckon they got enough employees to be continuously doing it all over the city-state, because they are the only ones doing it. And I don't know how many kilometres of roads there is here, but I reckon it's enough to permanently occupy you to the point where when you're done, you can start over, and keep 2 year distance at most among all the places. Then again, I'm not sure they're doing their jobs right, because I quite frequently see signage that is at best questionably legal, and not even with roadworks, where sadly in this country it's almost expected for signage to not be up to the standard, but quite a lot of the time it's actually permanent signage. And with permanent signage, you really ought to replace them every once in a while. But if, for example, a red ring is green from the sun, that's not 2 years of wear and tear. It turns yellow before, and when it's yellow, it's already due for replacement. I would guess a career at that company, with presumably an apprenticeship required, is probably something like my C option for career paths. Just because in the end of the day, I reckon I'd be good at it. It's just getting a foot in the door again, because I haven't got a foot in the door in that company. But that's probably option Charlie, so my third option. Primary being the place I interned at, or similar places, and secondary I'm not sure. And then the tertiary is making sure road signage is legal, because at the end of the day, what do you do all day long? I highly suspect half the day would be spent in the field, outdoors, walking and or driving through the town, through small bits of the town at a time, documenting while you go along. And a latter section, presumably half or so, because we're in Germany, is just documenting all that. And I reckon that'd be fun, just because you get to tell the people putting up the signs, oh, this is not okay with the rules, this is not okay with the rules, this sign is outdated, this sign is faded, this sign is turned to an illegal point, this sign haven't been valid since 1971, and things like that. And I mean, I still would have a lot to learn in that field, but I'd be good at it, man. I mean, I'm good at rental as well. I got the self-esteem these days to say that. That's a pleasant surprise. But yeah, there we go. That's a screenshot. 4 thumbnails. Surprise. I actually got the self-esteem these days, which is really pleasant. I mean, think of it, One thing I've said a few times in the past couple of days to various people is I don't believe I'm a great driver, but I'm already better than most people in this city simply by the fact of when I drive. And I'm saying this though I've run a red light. That's why I'm saying I'm not a great driver, I guess. But day to day, driving through this city, you see people twiddling away at their phones at traffic lights, or while driving, or both. Earlier today, for example, 2 left turning lanes at a junction with left turning traffic lights, so when they turn green you can go, no obstacles whatsoever. When I rocked up, there was one car stood in the left lane. I went in the right left turning lane, and they just kept creeping forward until they couldn't see the light, to the point where when the lights turned green, the cars behind them had to honk their horns because they weren't moving. I was long gone by then. I still heard it, and I noticed there weren't anyone next to me because they were fucking slow, And that's not okay with the rules of the road, man. I mean, I'm gonna have to assume you to have a license, and if you got a license, you should know it's not okay with the rules of the road. And even if you got your license before that was part of the rules of the road, which I believe it would have been since for bloody ever, holding a license, you are responsible to keep yourself up to date with rule changes. You know. In other news, I believe I've been smoking less today than I usually would, just because I've run out of cigarette packets here in the car. I have some in my flat, but I forgot to take some down earlier from the flat. Which means I've actually been doing roll-ups, and it is way more pleasant to smoke this way, I guess. I reckon later, well, in a bit when I get home, I'll, in indeterminate order, figure out what the pooter should compute overnight, just because I am in that space of making the film where the computer needs to compute. And I'll play some video games, and once I'm done with the video games and to go to bed, I'll set the computer to compute. In this case, I am referring to the computer as in processor-based, silicon-based machine, not a human with the occupation of computing, which is, I guess, a thing of the past, but it's just a thing that needs clarification anyways. This don't work in English, but I'll tell the anecdote anyways. Earlier at the checkout in the supermarket, because my bill was €43.22, I had to pay with big note just because I didn't have the money in small notes. So I had to say, let me look if I got the €4 in change. The term I used was in small money. And then later I corrected myself just because I felt small money was inadequate, because I ended up paying with two €1 piece and a €2 piece, which these days doesn't have much purchasing power just because money keeps losing value, but it's still not small money. It don't work in English because there's only change really, or coin money, but instead of small money I should have used the term coinage, which I then did correct myself on. And the cashier was really friendly. I go to this supermarket frequently. It's the main one I go to. I hadn't seen them before, so they might be new on the job, but it's pleasant. And if I see them doing one of the checkouts in future, odds are I'll actually rock up at their checkout, even if they have a longer queue, just because, make life easier. Then again, there is a couple of other employees there that are also rather nice, so I guess I don't have any problem with any of the employees at the supermarket, which is probably the reason I keep going. On the subject of supermarket, though I have committed myself to doing these here once I go shopping, yesterday I did go shopping, and I did not do one of these. Then again, I was shopping today, and that means I was not shopping much yesterday. I just got some milk and a couple of snacks for like €8 yesterday at a new to me supermarket. There we go. I reckon it is a solid alternative in case I ever have a potential reason to not go to this supermarket. It's not so great for going around with a shopping cart, but I like the overall layout. And it's on wherever I end up working, basically, commute. Much as this one is. The city's big enough that they're both toward the centre from where I live, so it's fine, I just realised I showed the receipt and I might have doxed myself. Not really though, because there still is a lot of things outside the centre from the supermarket. So, if you want to figure out which part of town I live in, I guess parts, you can use the receipt. Then again, if you're watching this, odds are you know me in person, so hello. If you don't, thank you very much for watching, and if you do, thank you very much for watching anyways. Means the world to me, truly. Just because, it's good to know anyone could have heard one. Though I believe it highly unlikely to be anyone individual, it is a possibility. And humans play the lottery, so possibilities matter for us, because probabilities of winning the lottery are next to none. Probabilities of any one person seeing this are next to none. Possibility is existent. Actually, the probability of any one human having seen any one of these recent videos of mine is significantly worse than winning the lottery. So, yay. At least the German national lottery. I don't know about others on Earth. I don't know what their probabilities are, but German one have 1 in 140 million. So, approximately. But it's what they advertise, so it's good enough for the regulators. Don't smoke, smoking kills. I say again, as I light a cigarette again, the second within half an hour. Oh no. Today I believe I have smoked quite a lot less though, so I reckon today I'll manage to stay below 25, which is not a low bar. But in the recent past I've had long days, just because I work into the night and sometimes I socialise into the night, you wouldn't believe it. And I end up smoking quite a lot then, so, be as it is, I ain't fussed about changing the smoking behaviour currently. I have too many other projects, particularly my thesis film. With my dad's music, I have considered making lyric videos and or music videos. But I reckon the soonest I'll do any is probably just a fun visualization. Just because, got to fuck around and find out. And at the end of the day, I got all the knowledge of using tools to visualize music. To do so, and even if I were to not, I could look it up. For we live in the 21st century, there is a thing called the internet. Which is quite amusing. I mean, you have these small computers people use while driving, and you have the world at your fingertips, the world of knowledge. Admittedly, there still is a lot of paywall knowledge, particularly in academia, but that's next to none, even in comparison to something like Wikipedia. I mean, some of the Wikipedia sources are paywalled, so nah. Then again, quite some of the sources return a 403, a 404 HTTP code, that is, timed out or not found, which can be worrying. And there is a significant amount of citations which appear to go cyclical. For Wikipedia cites something, that cites what Wikipedia cite. Sometimes with a few more citations in between, but not so great. Then again, that's a replication crisis. Which I have not helped with my thesis, admittedly, because I did not triple check my citations. Just because it's not worth enough credits to invest the time to justify investing the time, which is why I ain't done it. Which is poor excuse. Then again, I did write my thesis for one primary purpose, which is the degree. I did not write it for its own sake. Which is a conflict of interest. I believe I may have declared this in my falsification. I have a bound one right here, but I'm not going to look it up. So, yeah. Full stop, not look it up. Not just not look it up now, because, I've written it, I've had it in. I had a very fun, odd conversation on Wednesday. 2 days ago. In fact, 2 days and a few minutes, few hours. Which I debriefed the president and academic director of my university for apparently the person I had handed my thesis into saw a conflict in between us, which I was not aware of, was totally oblivious, because I'd offered for receipt of their receiving of the thesis to just take a selfie with me, them, and the thesis. Them, me, and the thesis. There we go. That's the way. Humans that are not you objects. And apparently offering that twice was too pushy. Because apparently they have a system for receipts, and that person just was not aware of it. I didn't know the person before, and I'll make an effort to know all the people who work places, just because open doors, But they are new, so they did not know, which is fair enough. But they took 3/4 an hour to get the receipt. Then again, it's not my first interaction with this uni, so I was prepared and brought time, which means I went in a hurry. I said, all right, I'll just go for a smoke then. After the smoke and browsing some Reddit, which is a waste of time. Then again, I had time to waste. I asked again, and they said, "Oh no, still ain't got a receipt for you." So I then went and talked with some of the in-house rental free of charge people who were prepping the move, just because I also know them, because they work there. Which means I may want something from them, which means it is reasonable for me to know them, and I should honour them as fellow human beings anyways, nonetheless. So it's worth learning their names, you know. I actually knew every one of their names, which I'm really happy with. Every single time I get names right, I'm happy with that. It's just the small things in life, you know. Then I went for another smoke, and then they had a receipt for me. So I went. First, I didn't see a conflict, but apparently me offering twice to take a selfie was too pushy. I don't know. It's just they didn't propose an alternative after I offered the first time, you know. If you offer an alternative, oh, I'll give you a note saying I've received it. That's fine by me as well. But if you aren't offering an alternative, I'll offer my option again until you offer an alternative, which they then did. They said, oh, I'll have to reach out to the parties responsible for receipts, which apparently is not the parties receiving, which I don't know. I've always thought that's how receipts work. Apparently not in all instances. Yeah, that's kind of funny, but I hadn't seen any conflict, so the debrief went rather quickly. I started on the day before, which was my shooting day for my thesis film, my first shooting day, and it's much looking like it will remain the only, just because I like using CG to enhance and work with and extrapolate from actual footage, and I have enough actual footage, so, you know. But the debrief only took 15 minutes because I told them my perspective of the story, which I've just told you now. And I told you in less than 15 minutes, you know, so. Apparently, neurotypical people can see conflict where there is none. Then again, it's a matter of interpretation. But others can interpret conflict as they would like and where they would like. To have an actual conflict, you need agreement of there being conflict, or a party acting on their belief of conflict. Which in this case, they did not act upon it. They didn't even tell me they saw any conflict. I was only told after the fact by a third party. So I frankly don't mind because they didn't act on it to my disadvantage. So I didn't see no conflict. So for all I know, they hallucinated their conflict. In their head. Oh no. Particularly as I was really rather sociable to them because I was in a good mood, because I'd taken my time, because I was prepared to bring time, you know. Which apparently may have upset them. I don't know. I mean, I debriefed them. They didn't debrief me because I still don't see how normal people work. Normal. There we go. That's another thumbnail. I mean, if they want to see conflict, they can see conflict all they like. If two of them agree they have conflict with one another, it's not nice because it's not the ways of harmonious life. Makes everyone who happens to be involved's life worse. Minders their quality of life, but it's not within my powers to change people's opinions. And realistically, I wouldn't want to invest the effort to change one's opinion. If one believes they have a conflict with someone, that's fine by me. If they act on a belief of conflict toward me, we might actually end up in a conflict because I might also believe we have a conflict. Then again, I do my best to try and diffuse situations of conflict. So if you have a conflict with me, I hope it's not one for long. Earlier, at the closest traffic light to where I am now, not in the car, but to where the car is now, in the environment, that's just down the road and at left, the traffic light there is a left and straight lane and a right turning lane. The car in the very front, when the light turned green, was going to turn left, so they started pulling left, and the car behind them followed, pulling toward the left, to not hit oncoming traffic, but also to not go straight. And when I drove past them, I said, oh, perhaps use the indicators, just as a piece of advice, because I'd waited most of the traffic light the cycle trying to get past them before I realised they were looking to turn left. and then they ended up following me. So they were not planning on turning left. They just did not manage to navigate their car within the junction. I don't know. But the motorcyclist behind me apparently agreed. So I'm happy enough. I've gotten the reaffirmation I need. Ooh, damn. It's been 10 minutes since I turned on that light. There we go. Another situation I had earlier, which was another fun interaction, I guess, was me stood at different left turning lights to the previous anecdote, and a group of, yes, camera, I know you're recording, and a group of motorcyclists coming the other way, and because it's a part of town where there is a lot of plod, yes, recording, 3 channels started, I know, because it's a part of town where there is a lot of plod, and there was plod not far behind me, motorcyclists were doing this one, oh, look out, there's plod, but all in good fun because they were obeying the rules and they didn't have no worries about the plod. But just for funsies, I put my head out the window and done this too, and we all had a good laugh. Like, that was nice, non-verbal communication, because apparently autistic people suck at it. I believe I manage better than many neurotypical people these days, which is something I'm somewhat proud of, I guess. Though comparison can be a break of joy. Comparison also shows you how well you're off, at least if you are not absolutely at rock bottom, which I happen to not be at this time. So it can show you how much bad there is in the world that you do not have to live under. They had a good laugh, I had a good laugh. All fine, Anyways, thank you very much for sticking around and watching me talk to myself, or to you, I guess, to my phone, to record, to upload on the interwebs. I hope you're able to have good laughs as well. Stay safe, I'll see you around. Cheerio.